Welcome to another podcast of the Mindset Matters, and today we're going to go really deep dive into motivation, what causes one, like myself, to lose it, to gain it, how to handle losing motivation, and all that kind of stuff. So I have been struggling with figuring out the secret to motivation for all my life, because I'm a very ADHD type, personality. I like to get really into something, and then for some reason I'll just feel like, oh, I've lost interest in this, and I've like moved on to something else. So sometimes I'll just be like, oh my god, I've started a new hobby, and then what I'll say is something like, this is it. This is going to be the one that has changed everything. I swear I will not change anymore. This is it. This is how I'm going to do things. This is exactly what I've been searching for all my life. And then what happens is 3 months later, I'm like, no, this last time I didn't think things through. Is this time it's really what's going on. This time is the true, real thing that I found that I love. I keep changing things up because for me, it's so hard to do something if I'm not motivated. Like, I literally cannot bring myself to even spend maybe 10 minutes on something that I have no motivation for. And that can be something that I used to really, really love doing. And that comes to with video making. Sometimes it can be a challenge. Back in the day when I used to make videos, I would lose motivation, and then I would just go through months without wanting to edit anything. But I have been trying very hard for all these years to work out what actually destroys my motivation and how to actually better handle, see, I get it, better handle losing motivation, and just ways to kind of like stay motivated. So before I even start on this, I do have to say a hilarious thing that happened one time. My friend and I, we were all like, we have the same problem sometimes with motivation. So one day we were chatting on Messenger, we're like, you know what would be really cool? We should make a motivational course for to help people to not lose motivation. 3 years later, we weren't even motivated to do it at all. So yeah, it's just a pretty hilarious thing that happened. But anyway, so when I actually looked at motivation, I actually went back to look at all the stuff that I was really into. And I was thinking about the reason why I stopped doing it, or I stopped enjoying it, or that I lost motivation. And actually, I found something very interesting. And a lot of times, what makes me lose motivation is really stress. So for some reason, I start something off all happy, excited, and and then for some reason, I build up some kind of expectation. I build up this thing in my mind that, I have to get so-and-so results, or I have to do this. I have to do so many of this particular thing. I'm going to give examples later on. I have to do this and this and this. And then soon I get really stressed out. And as soon as I get stressed out, my mind is just like, I need something to de-stress, so I move on to the next thing. So that's probably why I've never really been able to keep motivated on one thing for a long time, because I always end up finding some kind of stress. So we'll start with the very beginning, that song. The very first thing I remember really wanting to do, this was after I just quit the university course, and I decided I was going to do my own thing. And the first thing I did was making websites. So that was really fun. I enjoyed it. But what made me lose motivation in that particular thing was the difficulty of understanding some of the programming side of it, because my mind is just not very programmy kind of mind. So a lot of these equations and all those things just confuse me. So I remember when I first got into website, I was really excited to do the design part of it, but as soon as it came to the programming, I got stressed out, and then I soon lost motivation. And then the next thing I did was plushie making. So yeah, I had a period of time when I was making plushies, but just because I had lots of characters like plush that I loved, and I would used to just get a needle and sew them all together. And I made it until I felt too stressed. And what happened there was I started actually, I think this is the furthest I've ever gone in actually producing some kind of making money from art or something. That was, I started taking commissions from people with my plushies. And then that's when it all, yes, it got very stressful because when you take commissions, you're getting like asks, people wanting certain shapes or like characters, and you've never done it before. Some of them might be really easy. You might have a pattern that you just string together and it turns out great. But other times, it could be something that you've never done before, and that's what really stressed me out. I remember that time I was like, oh god, I don't know how to do all these different patterns. If they ask me to do something that I haven't done before, I'm not going to be able to do it, and I'm really stressed out. So I did like a few commissions. I had so much fabrics. Seriously, I still have them in my mum's house. It's actually really crazy that I have boxes and boxes of fabrics. I had bought a sewing machine, everything. I just got too stressed because the idea of like not being able to meet someone's expectations just stressed me out so much. So if I look back on it, if I actually, well, in a way now when I think back to it, it's like I'm kind of glad that I tried other things because I found things that I was more passionate about later on. But if I were to go back and make that work, I wouldn't have just started taking commissions. I would have probably made the same plush 10 times and try to sell those already made ones so people know what they're getting. That's what I probably would have done. That would have been easier. But anyway, I do remember also I had a sewing machine, but I was really scared to use it, and that comes down to this fear of the unknown. I guess I was still like that then, that I was too scared to use the sewing machine. Like, I didn't know how to use it properly, so I never actually took advantage of a sewing machine to make my plush. So that was another thing that actually put me off making it, because I was just too afraid of using the machine. And that's like something that happens to me a lot, that I buy these machines that I want to like make stuff with, and I've done that recently, like with an ice cream machine or something like that, a noodle making machine, and I'm all excited, but then I take it, I get it, and then I put it in the cupboard and hasn't been open since. So I feel like that has to do with the fear as well. Like, I fear using it because I've never used it before, and that's like just making me not motivated. So fear is fear is a huge destroyer of motivation for me, at least. It's like one of the biggest things. Like, if I were to choose the three things that absolutely destroys motivation, it would be fear, stress, and not meeting certain expectations. Those three things. So if you can actually really pinpoint what's causing you to lose motivation, maybe there's better ways to help you. So anyway, back to the plush. So after that, I kind of just got too stressed. I noticed with me, when I lose motivation to do something that I used to really enjoy doing, what happens is it kind of like goes down in a slope kind of thing. So I'll start with I just really had this negative sort of feeling towards it, and then slowly it becomes more and more unbearable to the point where I just have to stop altogether. And a lot of times I notice that I put a lot of pressure on myself. Like, this thing is like out of order. I'm sorry, I just have to go out of order for a second. At one time I still do. I love going to these markets with like these handmade markets, and I love it. It's like one of my favorite things to do. But what I noticed one time was that I started to get this feeling that I have to buy something. Like, if I make friends with someone in the market, I have to buy something. Otherwise, I'm not showing appreciation. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just not being nice. So I have this expectation, like I feel like, oh my god, I have to buy something. And sometimes when I don't have a lot of money, that becomes very difficult, and that I notice sometimes would make me just nervous to go, because I'll be like, oh god, if I can't afford it, I'm going to disappoint them. So a lot of times I feel like we put these expectations on ourselves, whereas if you think about it, like I do believe that like it's good that you just show up to support. Like, you don't have to buy something. I mean, if I had an art store and like I made friends, I certainly wouldn't be expecting them to buy from me all the time. I'd understand if they have money issues and stuff, but yeah, I just put these pressure on myself. So anyway, we're going to I kind of jumped out of time for a moment, because that only happened recently. So we're going back to after the plushie. What did I get into? I actually have to think about that for a second, because there was a period of time where I left Australia to move to America for 3 years. During that time I was stuck in this like apartment. So what I did was I started a food blog. And also during that time, I made many other websites. So I had like all these fan sites, food blog and everything. But the food blog was a huge thing because I actually was making money from it. I was making 2 recipes a day. Now, if I went back and like I would have punched myself in the face for trying to freaking make 2 recipes a day. Like, what was I thinking? Like, I just burned myself out because I was like, I have to do 2 recipes a day. And you know, if you think about how crazy it is, like sometimes it's even hard to come up with one good recipe. It's like to make 2? Like, really? So I think what happened is I just got into the, sometimes when I get really excited about something, I do a lot of extra stuff. Like I can really go all in, like, and make 2 recipes. But what happened is over time, I kind of lose ideas. I lose a lot of ideas of like what I'm gonna make. So because you make so many recipes and then you're like, what am I gonna make next? So by that time I was struggling to come up with 2 recipes a day. I still don't know why I forced myself to do it. I always remember on the weekend sometimes we would go out and I wouldn't even be able to enjoy myself because I haven't made my 2 recipes yet because the world depended on it for some reason. Like I don't even know why I thought that. So yeah, and also because I had high expectation of how I wanted the photos to look, so I always had to take really good photos with it and everything. So like to me it was just so stressful coming up with unique recipe ideas. Like sometimes it was great. I should have just went with making it whenever I felt like it, making it when I felt like, oh, this was a good thing I could make. That would have been great because I had some really good recipes. But the thing is, towards the end I was putting so much expectation on myself to make those 2 recipes that I ran out of ideas, and I noticed that the recipes were starting to not be as good quality because of the rush, because it was like making 2 a day is absolutely crazy. I think it's like, looking back, I was like, I should have tried to at least do 1 a day for a period of time to see how it went and have weekends off or something. But it's weird. It's like when I have these stresses, like expectation, I just can't get rid of it. Like, and we'll get later on about my filming journey and how that's going and stuff. But anyway, so the website, I mean the food blog, it was going well. But what I've noticed was when I didn't update the website anymore, because when we moved back to Australia, it was just a big move. And then I just kind of used that as an excuse not to continue anymore, because I was like, oh, I moved countries, oh, the measuring things are different now, oh, the ovens are different, you don't use the Fahrenheit to the Celsius, every blah 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 blah. I'll just like quit. It was all an excuse because it would have taken 3 seconds to figure out how to convert all the stuff and get like measuring spoons at the same. But no, I was just like, no, that's my excuse to quit. Because I was so stressed about it, and like moving country was the perfect reason for me to not do it anymore. So yeah, there goes the food blog. And honestly, like, it was a pretty good food blog. If I had continued for another 10 years, maybe I would have had 2 cookbooks by now. But I do remember at the time I was getting some kind of success because there were some blogs or other magazines who wanted to feature my recipes in their magazine. It was really cool. And if I just kept thinking, because at the time I was always like, oh, why do all these other food blogs have so much more like followers and so much more recipes? Well, no, not recipes, but so much more like just activity on their account and so much more everything. And why did they have authored 2 cookbooks and I've got nothing? I just kept focusing on that. And what I don't realize is, hey, they've been doing it for years and they've put in so much work and did it continuously, never gave up their passion. And me, I'm like flying in, flying out. Yeah, that's not going to be the same effect. Like, I didn't even really use Instagram that much. So why would I have all these freaking following if I didn't even really post much? So sometimes your mind is just finding ways to think like, maybe you're just not meant for it, so you shouldn't even bother. So that's what, like, I feel like a lot of times my mind is trying to trick me into thinking. It's like, you're just not meant for it. Like, your recipes are just, there's something wrong with it, so you may as well just quit now. I feel like that's my mind talking. So what I have to realize is have to be patient, because you can't really get anywhere, especially with a blog or anything like that, if you just quit. So anyway, that was years ago. I also had a website not just the food blog, but I also had a website that I wrote articles about health because I was really, really into health at the time. And because I had these, what I thought were heart palpitations when I went to sleep. So I was really obsessed. I was like obsessed with health and everything. And yeah, I wrote these articles, and I think in addition to the recipes, I think I forced myself to write like 2 articles a day. So I can't even go with how crazy I was then, like with my frickin' expectations. And what I've noticed also was that when you stop posting things, what happens is all the activity on your website will slow down. You'll find that with YouTube and everything like that, is that the way to keep going and getting better and getting more visits for your website is to keep posting. The Google is really like websites, and Google is the same as making a YouTube channel, and that is like if you post, they're gonna push your old stuff more. Like if you stop posting, if I stopped posting, my ad revenue went down by half at first, and then it slowly went down even more. And that's what happened with my YouTube ad revenue as well. Like when I was posting consistently, and I'm sorry I keep tugging at my glasses, I know it's just slippery, it's annoying me probably as much as it's annoying you, but anyway. Yes, so in the beginning, YouTube, I was able to get at least $100 per month, right? It was like when I was posting consistently. But when I stopped posting, yeah, all the stuff, just the activities went down, the visits went down, everything goes down because these websites, they want you to be active. They don't want you to just like do a bunch of stuff and quit. It's impossible to actually reach your goal of what you want to do or accomplish in your website if you just do a bunch of stuff like go all out for 1 year and like post 4 recipes a day, I'm thinking even crazier than I was, but and then you just quit for like 3 years. That just won't work. Of course, if you can post 3 recipes a day for 10 years, oh my God, but I know that's impossible. So that's maybe like, still, I don't think that's actually possible for a human to reach that kind of thing. But what I mean is, if you were able to consistently do it for a really long period of time, then yes, you'll definitely get absolutely amazing places. But for me, I've always had this 1 to 2 year mark where I would continue for like a year or 2. I think 2 years might be the furthest I've ever gone with creating something. Like 2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years. Actually, I can't really remember exactly how many years, but about the 2 year mark is when I start burning out with things. And it's like, for the food site, I just remember so clearly that I was burning out, but I didn't even notice what was happening. I had no self-awareness at all about how I worked or what things would trigger my stress and how I should deal with it. Like I just knew that I had to do these 2 recipes. And what a crazy thing to think that I would not even enjoy the weekend or be able to go anywhere and have fun because I didn't make those recipes. It's like, why couldn't I have just had more fun with it, like just enjoyed it more? Okay, so now we're going to move on from the websites to when I moved back to Australia, I got pregnant, and then I had Lucas. And in the beginning, I felt really bad because I didn't get like good photos of him when he was a baby. So that made me feel really guilty and really bad. And what that manifested into is me buying a bunch of baby photography props. If I had saved all that money, if I had saved all that money that I bought all these photography props with, which is probably around like $15,000 to $20,000, I'm not kidding. I've only sold maybe $500 worth of stuff because if you think about the shipping, most of the stuff came like shipped from overseas. So like I think I spent over $1,000 just on shipping. But I bought countless baby photography stuff. I got everything. I got everything you can imagine. I got the bean bag. I got the clips and the stands. I got everything. I got different kind of backdrops. I got like the backdrops costed a lot because they were like really thick and big and stuff. And it's like $100 per backdrop, and I had like 30 or something. And I had all these like wood looks, those flooring, those vinyl flooring or fabric flooring that were really, really heavy and big, and they were all shipped from overseas. So I wasted a lot of money. I say waste because of what happened with it afterwards. So yeah, I bought like for that period of 1 year, I think I accumulated over like $20,000 worth of baby photography stuff, because I felt so bad that I didn't take photos of Lucas, that I thought, oh, maybe if I had this prop, I would be able to do it next time. So I kind of like made my guilt into like a crazy buying spree, which was not very healthy. Like, I was really suffering at the time from postpartum depression, also because I feel like after you give birth, like, your mind is so like just unable to take any kind of loss or grief, that even someone who passed away that was just on the internet that I knew of, like, affected me so badly. I just remember, like, around 5 p.m. I just felt so sad. It was just really, really, like, it felt so sad. Like, I didn't even understand why. Just like my body was just like not working very well. And also because I feel like whenever I don't sleep, have that full sleep, like, you know, if I have very broken sleep, or like have only 3 hours or something, or no sleep, I do get that really bad feeling of negative, like, sad feeling in my stomach. So I think that also contributed to it. So during that time, I was really, really, really in a bad place. I didn't really have anyone to really talk to either. So what I did was I bought stuff, and yeah. So like, all this stuff that I bought, I just put in a thing, like put away. And I had I think I had 3 or 4 experiences where I actually really took photos of other people's kids. Like, I had one friend, I had my dad's friend, who was from his bowling club. I had like a neighbor, and I had like another friend or something. I had like 4 people, actually. 4 people that I went over to take photos of their kids or babies, twins. What a crazy thing. Well, some of them were really enjoyable and fun. It were like, the taking photos of the twins was very hard, because you're trying to take the perfect shot, and twins, one of them will sleep, one of them will be awake, one of them will be upset, one of them will be sleeping, and then you're trying to put them together, and suddenly they're like moving around, and then suddenly, like, because when you're taking the photos, they're not wearing nappies, and they've shit everywhere, and oh my god, suddenly you got all this shit, and then like, you're trying to clean it, and then everything's like, the clothes is dirty, and then you try to do it. I just, like, you know, freaked out. I was panicked, and I was like, I took some photos, but they weren't to my expectation. Like, once again, it was like, I wanted to take the perfect photos, but I couldn't because of the circumstance, and I wasn't very experienced with dealing with that kind of stuff. So I was trying very hard, but it was very difficult. And also, I think I had Lucas with me, so I was also attending to Lucas, and I was like, oh my god, this is so stressful. So after that experience, what happened was I was just like really stressed out. I was like, if I have to look for clients and deal with this kind of stress, I don't think I'm cut out for it. So it's like, I just got so stressed. And also, like, think about it, all this time so far, I found these, like, I was doing free photography for them. I wasn't even charging them at all, and I was so stressed out already. And to think that to actually look for a client and to actually charge them, to me was like, oh my god, I couldn't even imagine that. It's like, I would not be able to handle the stress because of that pressure of getting things perfect, because I didn't want them to like spend all this money, and I come over with all this equipment because I went to their place at that time. I didn't want, like, to have no good photos, or photos to my expectation, to show them. So I was just like, oh my god, I cannot handle this stress anymore. So I think the last photo session I did was the twins, maybe, and then I kind of just forgot, acted like I forgot I had those equipment. I put them all in bags and just kept them in the closet for years. It's like, a lot of times I notice that I go into something not fully realizing what comes with having to do that. So I didn't like come and think, oh, you know, to do a photography business, you have to do this and this. I didn't even really think about it. Like, I just thought, oh, I gotta buy the stuff. But I didn't really think about what comes with doing that. So I obviously didn't deal very well with pressure. I didn't deal very well with having like poor work, or like if I did my work and I wasn't happy with it, I was going to be really stressed out and stuff like that. So, you know, I just should have known that about me. So, well, self-awareness is very important, and I'll get to how I found more self-awareness later on. But anyway, if you think about all the photography props that I got, which was like a lot, I only sold maybe like 20% of what I bought, and it was all for discount because I sold it on Gumtree, and that's like, you know, that's like the let's buy stuff for cheap kind of thing. Like, you're always selling for cheaper than when you buy it for, because I didn't want to go through like shipping and everything. I just kind of wanted someone to just take a bunch of stuff. So I had a few people come and they bought stuff, and it was all really cheap because I just wanted some kind of money and I wanted to sell it ASAP. So I, just like when I sell my trees, which I'll get onto later, I sell it for really cheap. I bought it for like 10 times more. It is totally just crazy if you think about it. So anyway, I remember finding one or two baby photographers to sell all my stuff to. They bought a lot, thank God, because then I would have just wasted all that money. At least I got like what, like 10% back. Anyway, after that, I was like, what am I going to do next? I think I actually, during that time, decided that I was going to make videos. I think that was what made me actually, like, I was so off, like, I was just so off taking photos. I was like, know what? I'm going to start making videos. And that's when I started filming, like around when Lucas was maybe like 1 or 2 maybe. I can't remember exactly how old, but around that time I started to film, or I started to be curious about filming videos, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be great, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna be all like, you know, just have all this expectations. Once again, it's like you get into it expecting to get to a certain point, like in a certain amount of time. I kept thinking like, oh, if I just posted every day for a year, I'm gonna get big, oh, blah blah. And then I was like, oh, I post one video, and all of a sudden I'm thinking like, oh yeah, this is gonna be the video that's gonna get me to the top. 100 videos later, this must be the one that's gonna get me to the top this time. I swear, if it doesn't work out, I am just done. Well, that's how I burned out the first time. Yep. So when I got into YouTube, it was very exciting. I was like so excited. I was so eager to share all my stories and everything. And I made lots of videos. I had a lot of videos sharing personal stories. I had other videos sharing unboxing. I had a video sharing this and that and this and that. But what I noticed was I had this expectation of growing to a certain point by a certain amount of time, because I saw someone else who came in later than me post a few things and get more freaking results than me. If only I wasn't paying attention. Seriously, I wanted to go back and slap myself in the face. Like, this is the second time I wanted to do that. And so what the hell are you doing? Stop looking at all these other channels that's growing faster than you, that you're jealous of, that you're taking away time, that you be making stuff. So stop it! I would say that now. Like, I would seriously just want to pull myself out of that freaking mindset and say, you just focus on you and stop looking at everyone else. Like, someone else's success, as what Gary Vee always says, someone else's success is not taking away from yours. It's like your idea that they are is taking away the happiness that you could be having and the time that you could be having creating something for yourself. I love that mindset. So anyway, I just remember like feeling so discouraged after a few videos, and even like people who I was watching, like friends or fellow creators that were like around my size, I was watching, and I noticed what I always did was I compared myself to them. I always felt like, oh, they're getting more likes than me, they must be better than me, they must be more likable, I must suck. That's what my mindset was for so freaking long, that I kind of wish I would just like blindfolded myself to the freaking stats. Like, seriously, I just don't know why I wasted all this effort. Because I wasted so much effort focusing so much on the stats, I burned myself out because I was feeling like I'm doing all this stuff and seeing no progress. What I didn't realize was I was progressing. I was actually going really well. If you think about it from like, you're only seeing, the thing is, you're only seeing people who are like, a lot of times, this was in the past, like nowadays it's slightly different, but now, before, like most of the things that you see are people who are doing better than you, because that's what they're pushing. They're pushing things so that they're like, most of the stuff you're going to see, like people who've maybe made 10 videos and suddenly have like 100k subscribers, you know, you're going to see those more than you're going to see those who are grinding years and years and still not getting 1,000 subscribers. You're not going to see that because they're not pushing that. So all you're seeing is the ones that are getting better than you, and it's going to make you feel like, oh, you're not doing as well, whereas you actually are, but you're just not seeing it, and you're not putting in more work to actually continue it, yet you're spending all this time. And that's what I did, and I hate that I did that. I hate it. I wish I had just like found some way to blindfold myself to the stats, to not care about it, put my head down and just do all these freaking content. I would be so happy if I had just not quit. So I think I did it for about 2 years. I did videos for 2 years. I kind of made all sorts of all over the place content, and I was like, you know what, this is just not working. I was like, it's like, nah, like other people are doing better than me. I suck. I need to just give up. So that's how I gave up. The what was it like now? What, the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth thing? Is it the fifth thing or the sixth or fourth? I can't remember. It's like, nah, this is just not worth it. So I gave up. And that's like one of my biggest regrets, is giving up. Well, my biggest regret is not starting YouTube earlier, but my second biggest regret was giving up for those 3 years. Because when I gave up, what I was thinking in my mind is that I'm never going to actually get anywhere, so I should just stop trying. What I didn't actually understand was it takes patience, it takes years, and you have to just keep going. Like, giving up is the only way you will ever just not actually reach your goal. And what I found was not that I didn't enjoy making videos, but I just hate feeling that, like, oh, I must not be as good, or I'm not meant for success, or I'm not meant for this or that, because you're seeing, like, you're viewing yourself so negatively that it's like you're just coming up with all these reasons why you must suck. And that's what I did all this time. I was like, oh, you know, this is not gonna work out. Like, oh, I could be doing this for the next 10 years and it'll still be where I am now. Why ever bother? Oh, these people were so much better than me. They're more charismatic, they're more fun, they're more like lively. I'm just too whatever. And then I was like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. So there we go. I told myself to just give up. And that's what I did. So during the 3 years, what I've really started to do was change a lot of my interests. So I went from really liking that whole like glam, like those glam days full of like shiny things, to more of a naturalistic setting. So, you know, it's like I went from, it's not that I don't like things, I love things, but it's just like the kind of things that I love, the decor that I love changed a lot. So that also meant that my videos would look very different, because before it was all like pink and stuff. Before now it's like what you see now. It's like vintagey kind of feel. So they're very different, and I was just very self-conscious about coming back and sharing things that are different from what I used to post. And of course, every single time I debated so long. I was like, do I start a new channel? Do I go back to an old channel that I abandoned? Or do I post in this channel? And then I'm like, should I do a gardening channel? Should I do a like a self-help channel? Should I do a decor channel? A silent video channel? Like, I kept thinking, like, how many channels should I build? And then I was like, maybe I should get like 6 channels together and then like have different themes and stuff. But what I also found was that I have this hoarding mentality. So for some reason, if I have more than one channel, my mind is scattered and I cannot focus, and I find myself absolutely just losing motivation, because I like all my stuff to be together. I'm like hoarding, you know, just think of someone who's likes to hoard, and like they want all their stuff in one place and they just want to keep it to themselves. Like, that's me when it comes to channels. So I want all my stuff to be on one channel. So, and of course, you know what I did? I also went on all these like self-help, not self-help, but like YouTube how to grow a YouTube channel kind of videos. I watched a lot of those and I listened to almost every single person that was teaching that. So, and one of the things that I was always told to was to niche down and like make it for one audience, otherwise you're going to confuse them and then you're not going to grow and blah 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 blah, and then like stuff like that. And oh my god, I was listening to that. It made me really nervous about creating stuff that I thought wasn't going to be on brand, and it just kind of put me off creating altogether. What I feel like the people who are giving that advice don't realize is, if you had to choose between giving up and doing a little bit of variety, of course you're going to choose a variety, because what if you just feel so trapped in doing stuff that like you're so boxed in that you just give up altogether? Like, is it really worth it to just not post like certain videos that you really want over just giving up? Really, it's like, what they don't understand is how some people like me operate, is that if things are that pressuring, like, I just kind of give up altogether. So that's what I've been on a quest. It's like, I'm on a quest to meridian. No, I can't even know the song. I don't know it's a quest. I'm on a quest to find the way to never give up on something. You'll have to excuse me. I just got interrupted by a phone call, and of course I tend to lose my train of thoughts when that happens. So what I was saying is, I've been on a quest to find how to not lose motivation when I feel like that kind of like, oh, that negative feeling is here, because I notice what I'll be doing is I'll be really passionate about something. I'll be like so excited to do it. Every day I wake up and I just want to do it so badly. And then as soon as I discover something new that I like doing better, like the thing that I like doing before kind of like fades. And then depends on how stressful that thing is, I either kind of feel like, oh, I want to do it less and less and less. If it's really stressful to me, then I would ultimately just not want to do it at all. And what I really want to do now is have a good balance of everything. Like, you know, being able to do some of this and do some of that. Like, for example, another thing that I love doing that I picked up an interest of, that I know I have the talent for if I actually put time into it, rather than take year breaks every freaking time I start, is drawing. Like, I really, really do love art. As a kid, I loved drawing. I mean, as soon as I learned how to do basic circles, I stopped handing in a blank page. I was so into drawing. And as I got older, I kind of just lost touch with that, because I feel like a lot of times drawing is so scary, because you're putting a piece of paper, you're putting a pen or pencil on a paper, and then when you stuff up, you're like, oh god, I have to erase it, and then it doesn't always erase correctly, and then the page gets all screwed, and then you're like, oh god, this art sucks, and then you just throw it out. That's what I've been doing for a long time. And what I found was using the iPad to draw really, really changed everything. But that doesn't mean I actually stick to it. What happened is, see, this is the cycle, it repeats itself. So during that time when I was taking break from filming, or maybe when I was actually filming, I was also doing some kind of art, because that was like during the pandemic years. I actually really started to draw at that time. I was like, my goal is to draw every single day for a year and not give up. That was my goal. I was actually a little bit self-aware enough to actually know that I wanted to not quit something. So I was aware. So, you know, given to kudos to that, I actually was aware of something that was like my issues with motivation making. It was like, oh my god, I need to continue this. So I was drawing. What I find that what motivates me to draw is usually when I want some kind of art and I don't have it. It could be something personal, it could be something that I really just want, or a really great idea that I would want to commission someone. But because I kind of have a hard time finding the right artist, or finding any artist that takes commission sometimes, it's like I'll be looking for like a perfect artist, and then their commission slots are full, so I'm like, oh my god, I was like, and then just the stress of finding the artist to commission is very hard. So sometimes when I'm in that mode, I will want to and be very motivated to do my own drawing. And that's actually what got me started both times that I started drawing, because I started drawing for a period of time like years ago, and then I stopped for a few years, and then I started again. And also there was also other things that was contributing to me stopping, like the iPad kind of a fearing that the iPad is going to get broken and stuff, because, you know, when Lucas sometimes will play with my iPad and sometimes like drop and everything, you know, it's like iPad is just not very stable. I've had the stuff break a few times. So I was just like, I'm going to try to draw every day. This is almost like the food blog, isn't it? Like, I was like, I'm going to draw every day. So no matter what I was feeling, I forced myself to draw. And that was a really bad mistake, because what happened is there were days where I couldn't think of what to draw. Like, I exhausted all my ideas, and I was like, oh my God, I've drawn everything I can think of. I just can't think of anything. And instead of taking a break or, you know, just saying, take it easy, spend a week drawing one picture, I had to force myself to finish one picture every day or every second day. Sound familiar to you? Yep. Okay, so I noticed when I first begin to draw, I don't have that expectation, but for some reason, as I get more into it and I improve, I think it's because, like, if I'm able to complete one drawing in a day because I was very excited to, that becomes my kind of standard. So I'm like, okay, I need to like do that from now on. So instead of saying, oh, this took me one day to do because I was so excited, I just take my time in the future. I say to myself, you better come up with one picture every day for the rest of the freaking year. So that's how I burned out, of course. I was like, I ran out of ideas. Really? I just ran out of ideas. This is quite crazy if you think about it. What happened was I got to a point where I was sort of forcing myself to draw, and I found that over time it got harder and harder to even open the iPad, and then I just quit altogether. And usually when I quit drawing, it's for about a year or two or something, and then something will start my motivation, and I'll be like, oh my God, I really want to draw this because this thing is so cute and I want like my version of it, or something that's like, I just want to draw something similar to that, or I would like to, I'm motivated. So then I pick up the pen again and I start drawing again, and now, right now, I have to say, this is like the first time I've actually really started to draw in a while, and I need to tell myself, like, you just take your time with this one picture, like, stop giving yourself all this pressure. There's no, like, nobody is giving you this pressure to draw a certain amount of picture a day or get anywhere or come up with ideas. You just do what you feel like at this time. Like, you don't have to even draw every day. Spend like a little bit of time doing it, and then if you don't feel like it, don't worry. I try to force myself to balance myself out, and I'm not spending like hours and hours and hours doing it because I'm like, I have to get it right. Because sometimes you'll find that with art and everything like that is that you need a break, because if you're putting too much effort into it like in one go, your mind will get scrambled, and then you'll just be like finding it very hard. Like the first day I've been trying to draw a picture. The first day I was like drawing up the like half the picture, and I was trying to draw the this character or something, and I just got really frustrated because I couldn't get it right. I was just like, fuck this. And then I just decided that was the end for the day. I'm not going to say anymore. So I closed the iPad. And one of the hardest things to do when you're a perfectionist and you're an artist is to close the iPad with an imperfect looking picture. It's difficult. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to have this looking so horrible here. Why am I closing it now? So I closed the picture. I was like, I'll try another day. And guess what happened? The second day I tried again, and oh my God, I just came up with much better. Like, my art just improved. And it was just from being not on it to do this for about 12 hours. That's all it took. Like, my mind somehow processed the information and improved on its own. I did nothing, like nothing that I could actually physically think of that I did, except just take a long break, take a sleep, I don't know, do something else that I enjoy too, like watch a video or something, film, which is I love doing at the moment. Like, filming is something I really love, and I'll get back into that. But yeah, guess what? I improved the next day. So when you're putting all this pressure, like, oh, you've got to get it done right now, you've got to do it perfectly, oh, you have to do this, like, it just makes working on it so much harder. Like, I find that the more pressure I put on myself, the worse it looks. So when I just put it down for a while, I came back the second day, I was like, oh, I'll just try it again. Like, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. And yesterday I actually completed the sketch of it, and I was so happy with it. Like, it never happens. Like, I'm never happy with a picture. Like, well, not recently anyways. Like, I used to have lots of pictures I really liked, but I noticed, like, another thing is, as you look at your own picture, for some reason, it only works with your own stuff. Like, the more you look at it, the more imperfections you're going to notice out of it, and then suddenly it's like the best looking picture that you really, really love that you created suddenly is a piece of crap, and you're like, why did I do this like this? And then you're like trying to fix all those mistakes because for some reason it's only your art or your freaking piece of content or whatever you're creating that has that effect. Other people's don't. Like, I don't look at other people's art going, oh, look at that imperfection, look at that line that shouldn't be there. I'm just doing that with my own art. Like, if I put my own art on my phone, I literally feel like it's a sore spot. Like, I'm like, oh god, this is reminding me of all these problems with it. Like, instead of like when I have other art or like other people's art on my phone, I'm like, what a beautiful piece of work. It could be like a rough sketch and I'd be like, what a beautiful piece of work. But if it was mine, I'm like, that thing looks ugly. So, that's just my issue. And I feel like a lot of us do that. A lot of us will put at this thing on ourselves where we're like, we need to be absolutely perfect. So, you know what? I need to start embracing imperfection because that's what's going to make losing motivation much harder. Because when you think about it, if you want to do the most perfect thing, you want everything to turn out perfect. You want your picture to turn out perfect. You want the results to be perfect. You want everything to be perfect. And it doesn't come out perfect. What's going to happen? You're going to lose motivation because your mind is going to start telling you it's not worth it because you're not doing it perfect. So yeah, I've noticed that after the break I took us, I'm kind of jumping all over the place now. We're talking YouTube again because that's like I've been like jumping all around with art, YouTube, everything. But anyway, it's just my life. So anyway, I got back into YouTube because I was just feeling like I was missing something. Like I really wanted to create, but I was so worried. And I am so lucky to have found one video that really changed my life. And that was the video about that You Are the Niche by Gary Vee. I just love that video so much. I'll talk about it almost in every freaking video that I can about motivation and stuff because that video changed my life. That video was the one video I needed to get permission to actually do the content I really wanted to, and to not just think about, oh, like I have to be on brand, I have to like only talk about this thing because that's what I'm known for, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I am so freaking pumped that I found that video because ever since then, I have just never looked back. It's like, okay, but I've only been really consistently creating content for 6 months and, I could still burn out. I could still go through this thing where I'm like, oh, I don't feel like it. But right now, I'm actually finding things that's working for me. And what's really working for me is the document over create. And I love that. Love that because when I think about just documenting my day, some days there will be days, just like when I'm making recipes, there will be some days where I won't feel like talking, when I won't feel like doing this, when I don't feel like making this kind of video, where I just want to have a calming day. And on those days, what I do is I just take out the camera and document what's happening. Like, those are like the really simple days where I don't overthink things, and that's really good. I love that. And also I find that with talking videos, what I also find with myself is that I'm improving a lot, so I'm not spending 3 hours editing. Like, for example, my podcast right now, all I'm really going to do when I edit this is to join it together. The clip before I got interrupted on the phone call, I'm going to join it together properly so it doesn't sound like I just suddenly disappeared or something. But there's like really, like, I can't even think of any place in the actual video that I want to edit out because I'm actually able to articulate myself much better. So it really does help. Like, if you're doing it almost every day, you got to just find the opportunity to get better, because as you get better, things are going to be easier. And you have to think, what about what you're doing is making you not want to do it? For me, it was editing. That was the hard part because it was always more fun to film. I think that's for like most creators. It's fun to film, but when you have to sit down and put it all together, it's like, oh my God, it's really hard. So I found a few things that really worked for me, and that is to edit that day's footage on the day. So instead of like putting it off till tomorrow, which then I could have even more footage and whatever, like I'm going to do everything I can today. So I'm going to do that. I have a set time where I'm like, okay, it's time to sit down and edit. So that's when I do it. And then before I go to bed, I'm going to finish the edit. I'm going to render the video and everything's going to be great. And I have a day where I know I'm going to make the thumbnail, and sometimes what what I hate is the stress of, oh God, it's that day and I have to get the thumbnail done. So what I like to do is start working on it the night before, and that really helps because that kind of eases the stress a little bit, because it's like Tuesday is my thumbnail day, so I have to get everything done and uploaded. So I'm just like, I have to freaking have everything ready. So on Monday night, what I do is I start like taking screenshots of the pictures and start doing it, and whatever I can do, I'll do that night. And it's just less stressful for me that way. And right now, what's happening is I'm not trying, but I end up with like 2 videos a day some days, because I've found that the footage I'm taking, like I'm documenting, often not even creating, I'm documenting. There are times where I'm creating and it's fun, and it's never like, oh, you shouldn't create. It's more like if you're having trouble creating, then document. I'm finding myself with multiple footage, and it's really great because I can split it in 2 videos. That's why I have 2 like separate videos, because they don't really mix together as one whole thing. So I turn it into 2. And I think of YouTube as a abundant place rather than a scarcity place, because before I was like, oh, you can't make this, make that. Now I'm thinking I can make it. You know, if that thing is going to help one person, so be it. That's great. I'm not going to think, oh, I'm not going to post it just because it doesn't fit my brand. Like that's to me is like the worst thing that I ever thought of, that really made me quit. And also, I found that the more you feel free to do the thing that you really want to, and do the thing that works. So it's not like I'm saying you shouldn't do anything that, like, you shouldn't do the things that works. Of course, like, there are videos that you know are going to work better than others, and there's nothing wrong with doing those. But the thing I hate is when they say you shouldn't do the stuff that is off-brand. Like, why can't you? Like, I can even put it on the YouTube without notifying subscribers if I feel like that video may not go well with them. That's what I do a lot of times. If something is very specific that I know will help a specific group of people, like a tutorial or something, I usually will uncheck the notify subscriber, because there's no point of them getting it because they're not going to find it relevant. And I just love doing that instead of like, oh, I can't post anything that's not niche, not in my niche, oh my God. So you know what, you'll just see a lot of different things, and I love it that way. That's the full me. I want to actually show people the full me, and not just me that likes gardening, because some days I don't like gardening. Some days I just want to I don't know, do something else. Some days I just want to talk. Like right now I am in a big motivation boost, and I just want to make videos about, like, I just want a podcast about talking about experiences. That's right now my big passion. So imagine if I had said to myself, like, I'm a gardening prepping channel and I'm not allowed to talk about anything else. Like, I would literally be like not making content right now, because I wouldn't even be feeling the motivation. And honestly, I really do believe that with the way YouTube is going, their AI and everything, they're going to eventually find that piece of content for the right person. So like, people are saying like subscribers don't matter, so why are we overthinking it? So that's one of the things I really do want to like put emphasis on, is like, don't like not do something because you feel like it's not right, and then put yourself in that box where you feel like you're not motivated to do things because you are not passionate about what you like anymore, or you used to. Just be yourself. Like, that's the most important thing, is you gotta be the full you. Don't cut out parts for other people. It's not worth it, because you're living your life, you're not living their life. Like, they might just want one thing, that's fine. Like, let them just want one thing. You should be allowed to share more of everything about you. Like, there should not be any rule to say, oh, you can only show this part or this part. That's, to me, is like, and we're getting better with this AI thing to get information. So isn't that what people are going to want, is to feel personal connection with people? And to get that personal connection, you have to actually not just be having a transactional relationship. And that sometimes, if you're just giving information and nothing but information, and, you know, like teaching people how to do things, then that really is just like oh, I'm here for the information and that's it. And like, I really do love when I find people that I personally connect to. I find like just me wanting to hear what they say and everything like that is just so much better than when, like, if I just listen to someone to get information from them and nothing else, then I normally will just not watch if I'm not interested in the information. So, you know, it's like very transactional, and I just have to force myself to realize it's not about the stats. So one of the things that I've learned recently, I watched a very long podcast. It was Mel Robbins with Dr. K, and I found it to be one of amazing podcasts that I listened to. It was about motivation, and what he said was a lot of times we're not motivated to do something because we kind of set this expectation, and when we don't achieve it, like for example, you want to lose weight, so you're like, oh, I'm going to do all these exercises, and by the end of the week you don't lose weight, and oh my god, you just don't feel motivated anymore. That's happened to me. Of course it's happened to me. I'm like, oh my god, why am I bothering with it? It's unpleasant to exercise. Why should I do this? So that's almost like a separate thing, but it's also motivation. So when I think about that, and that's similar to my YouTube story, is like I kept thinking like, oh, if I post it in a certain amount, I must get to a certain point, I have to grow fast or whatever. And then when I didn't get to that result, or when individual videos didn't get the view count that I wanted, I would just quit. And I was like, oh, why bother? It's like, it's not good anyway. I'm wasting my time. What Dr. K said that was so important was that you got to actually detach yourself to the goal, to the actual result of the thing, because that is really not in your control if you think about it. Like, you are losing weight, but it's not in your physical control to actually shed those kilos or pounds, whatever you use. So it's not actually in your control. You can't actually physically take those kilos out of you. You can only do your best to eat healthy and exercise. So you have to focus more on that rather than, oh, by the end of the month, I need to lose a certain amount. Because if you don't lose it, of course, you're not going to be motivated. Like, it's not working. Why am I bothering? Right. But a lot of times, and as like the long-term thing that we have to realize, is patience is the key. Like, we need to be patient. I need to be patient. Patience is my worst enemy. It's like, even now, I'm having trouble with patience. And a lot of times it will show up in gardening, because a lot of times I'll be too impatient to wait for something to root, and I'll pull it out. And then guess what? If it did root, it would have died because I pulled it out. So that's something I still do now. That's really bad. But anyway, so when I think about motivation, I think, okay, I need to do the thing, and I need to acknowledge, like, I need to detach myself to the results. So I need to be, and honestly, a lot of times you may not be motivated also, because doing that thing may be unenjoyable in some ways. Exercising is definitely one of those that I would find unenjoyable in some ways because of how tired I feel when I'm doing the vigorous exercise. Like, when I'm doing exercises, I'm all puffed out and I'm sore everywhere. It's not pleasant. So what Dr. K said is you really have to actually sit with those negative feelings and acknowledge them, and like even anticipate them. So instead of just like going in blindsided, like, oh, this is going to be so much fun, oh my god, I'm going to have fun exercising, which is like if you're not enjoying the exercises, that's not going to be the truth. So you're going to have to tell yourself, like, okay, I'm going to really not like it for a bit, but I know I'm not going to like it, so I'm going to just keep trying to do it, even though I don't like doing this right now. So that's one thing that I learned that was very important, is to not attach yourself to the result. So you can't be thinking, if you're making a video and you love making it, you can't be thinking, oh, this video needs to get a certain amount of views. You can only just focus on what you can create at this time. I can make the best video to my ability, and I'll put it out there, and so be it. If it gets 1 view, it gets 1 view. If it gets zero views, it gets 0 views. Who doesn't? Like, who cares? And I find sometimes it's actually easier to just not look at stats rather than look at it and trying to make your mind think like, oh, it's not as bad as you think. Like, I find it easier just not to see it at all. Like, I do find that much. I'm removing the camera a little bit because it's the background over there is really bothering me. But yeah, I'm just like, I really need to not attach myself to any of the results. So if a certain video doesn't do well and I put a lot of effort in, I don't think about it, or I don't seek out the stats to prove me that the video didn't do well. I find if that happens, like if I don't look at the stats and stuff, I'm really able to put my head down and focus and create. That's really, really amazing for me. That's one of the big things that I've noticed that really helps me, is that I could just create and not even look at how it's doing. Just create because I love it. Create because I could say something that could be helpful. Create to share some kind of experience, whatever it is that you're creating. One of the things that I'm starting to do now that I never did before is really think about what could possibly make me not motivated and what I can do to increase the chance of not burning out and how I can continue doing something. What are some ways I can make my life easier, like to actually continue doing this? So that's something I will actually think about right now that I never really did before. And one other thing that I really recently learned is that 6-month, like, what is it called? Something horse. I can't remember the name. I'll figure it out somehow. But it's basically you have 6 months of heightened emotion to certain things, like big life changes or something. So a lot of people will be motivated for 6 months at a time. So you'll find that after 6 months, your motivation might wane down. It could be very exciting events. It could be negative events. Like basically you have a 6-month window where your emotions are like overly like towards one side, either excited or unhappiness or whatever it is, like major life event like grief or something like that. So after the 6 months, you kind of revert to your neutral self. And that's really interesting because I was wondering why every time I picked up a new interest, it lasted about 6 months. Like, oh my God. It's like I'm thinking about all the times that I've had fun for 6 months and I was like, nah, not for me. Sometimes a year. A lot of times it is a year for me, and then I'm like burning out. So now I have to really think about what can I do? What can I do to not burn out? So the first thing I did, I remember doing is like I listed all the things that I really enjoy doing and why it could be stressful. So I listed me doing like videos, I listed bullet journal, I listed everything that I really enjoy doing. And what are some of the biggest stresses that comes with it? So it could be a really nice journal entry for you to try. Like just put in like one of those lists like, oh, what do I love doing? And then you write, what are the stresses that can cause? Like what are some of the stresses? And that's really helpful because you can actually think about like, oh, this thing can cause this stress. What can I do to eliminate, or not eliminate, but to decrease the stress? Because you don't want that much stress involved in the thing, right? And even if you start off really excited, you can still be stressed about it later on due to other reasons. So yeah, stress is like key to like stress, or decreasing your stress is the key to be more motivated. Because if you're having fun when you're doing it more, like if you're doing it and you're not stressed out, then of course it's going to be much harder for you to just quit.